Hey guys, I'm Rich. Welcome to Rich with Cars. On this week's video, we're going to be going over a gorgeous convertible, the 2024 Aston Martin DB12 Volante. This car just became available on the market right now, and I'm extremely excited to go over the exterior, the interior, cargo, engine, and of course, driving impressions. I think it's probably one of the most beautiful convertibles out there right now, no matter which segment you're talking about. And it's got amazing engine notes, amazing design, luxuriousness, and of course, now with the new infotainment system, technology as well. So as always, guys, let's strap in and take a look. So we're gonna get started here in the front. In terms of the design, the overall exterior design, as you guys have seen before on the coupe version of the DB12, they did a full redesign of the front of the vehicle. It does retain a lot of the stuff from what they had before with the DB11, but now with the DB12, you have somewhat of a different grille, which is larger. The lower apron area over here, you have these different air intakes over here. And then of course, I really love what they did with the work here a little bit with sort of like a lip spoiler, but the lip spoiler, as you guys can see over here, doesn't go all the way across. It's only on the sides. So it gives it a very sort of dynamic, but also elegant look at the same time. And then the biggest change of all with the redesign, especially here on the Volante, that shares it with the coupe version of the DB12, the headlights. Now this is part of the new Aston Martin design movement, and I love what they did with the headlights. These LEDs that you guys see here inside, these are the turn signals, and they're really, really gorgeous. It's a very, very different sort of design. And I love the way that it actually extends out into the body or into the fender itself. Of course, as you guys can see over here, Aston Martin continues with the new logo. So this is now the third vehicle that has the new Aston Martin logo. It started off with the DB12 coupe. Then they moved on to the Vantage, the new Vantage, and now they have it on the DB12 Volante as well. Not extremely different. You guys have to see it or compare it side to side with the old logo, but you know, it sort of shows a new movement for Aston Martin moving forward now. And then of course, finally the hood design, as always, quintessential Aston Martin, very classic, very elegant at the same time. It doesn't have a lot of design lines on the hood itself. It's got two in the middle and two a little bit further outside. And then of course, we got some functionality as well on the hood with these heat extractors, which are, you know, you have these vents that basically help extract some of the heat that basically comes out of the twin turbo 4-liter V8. So that's basically it. So let's move over to the side profile view of the Aston Martin DB12 Volante. And let's get started right here on the wheels. You get to see are very similar, if not the same, as you get to see on the coupe version. These are 21 inches. I like the fact that they got a laser cut design with a matte black look. These are 21 inch, and they come standard with Michelin Pilot Sport S5s, which are specifically tailored to the Aston Martin. You'll see somewhere here, if I can find it, you see it further inside over here, it says AML, which stands for Aston Martin Lagonda. And that basically tells you that Michelin worked with Aston Martin to produce these S5 tires specifically for this vehicle. Now, of course, the design itself is, of course, subjective. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do like the fact that it's laser cut, it's got the matte black look, but from a maintenance perspective, the multi-spoke design makes it very difficult to clean. And then of course, behind these, we got optional carbon ceramic brakes. You're sure to be going through very high speeds, and these carbon ceramic brakes will help you stop in a dime. Moving on to the fender itself, quintessential Aston Martin design Q over here, which is basically the side vent. And it is functional because it does allow a lot of the pressure to actually exit from the wheel well itself. And of course, you have now an Aston Martin logo that is right here on the side vent. Very, very nicely done. My favorite thing, to be honest with you guys, is the side view mirrors. I really love what they did with the side view mirrors. They have a frameless design on the actual mirror itself. And the cool thing now is that the mirrors, when you're adjusting them, The mirrors themselves don't move. It's the entire housing. So when you're adjusting the angle, the housing itself will move around. And then of course, the way that they actually integrated the arm for the side view mirror, very elegantly done. That comes out of the A pillar. And then finally, of course, the way that they integrated the camera, the side view camera, also very nicely done, because I've seen on several different Ferraris where they've put the camera on the housing itself and it looks like a little zit, if you want to call it. Looks like a pimple, like a bulge that comes out of there. Not very nice. Aston Martin did very, very well to do that. Of course, then we got the classic Aston Martin flush door handles. But now with the DB12, when you push the handle itself, it basically presents to you. So now before on the DB11, you had to push on one side and pull from the other. On the DB12, on the Volante, which includes as well, it basically presents itself much easier to open the door now. And then the best thing of all that comes with the Volante design is the fact that you have no roof. So it really accentuates the rear hips of this vehicle. It got really wide hips and it's got that classic Coke bottle sort of shape to it. And it shows how wide this car is, especially when you don't have a roof to take your attention away from those sexy hips. So ultimately, I really love, the way that it's been designed here in the rear. So looking at the rear of the Volante, of course, is going to be very different than what you see with the coupe, because of course we got no roof, and now this rear portion over here is much more open. You got a much bigger space over here. Of course, at the end of the day, the DB12 Volante basically shares a lot of the same design language that the DB11 had, which basically comes down to the rear taillights, as you guys can see over here. And then of course you got the, if you want to call it the invisible wing over here, that basically allows air to go through the trunk lid itself. Now moving a little bit further below, we get to see the exhaust tips surrounded by a 3D printed sort of metallic piece over here. It would have been nice if they would have done sort of an option for a dual or a quad exhaust type of option, but still, nevertheless, I do like the large and in charge tips that you have over here. Yeah, the rear design is very similar to what you see in the DB11, but still, nonetheless, very, very nice. I do like the fact that you have both the Aston Martin logo and the Aston Martin logo also written out as well. Gives it a very luxurious look. So getting into the trunk of the DB12 Volante, you guys get to see that we can't really say that it's got tremendous amounts of space. It is a convertible after all. This right now is in the down position, and this is because the top right now is down, and this is basically used to store the top. When the top of the roof is not stored and it's actually on, you can push this up to give you a little bit more space vertically, because in terms of depth it stays the same. And most of you are probably gonna ask if you can fit a set of golf clubs in here. I don't have a set of golf clubs here with me, but at the end of the day, I think it would be a very tight fit, and most that you can probably fit is one set of golf clubs. I'll put on the screen, guys, what the actual volume or the cargo volume is for the trunk, because you guys can see over here, there are some straps over here, and those straps, I believe they're for the Aston Martin umbrella, but we don't see the umbrella here. And then the other thing that is, a nice little touch in terms of, attention to detail. The handle to push the cover here is actually made in leather. So you guys get to see how Aston Martin really pays a lot of attention to detail. But ultimately, it's a trunk that you can use for, let's say, short weekend trips, and you can potentially put maybe a small set of golf clubs in the rear. All right, guys, so moving from the rear, let's go towards the interior now and take a look at the door cards and a little bit up on the seats. So right off the bat, you guys get to see, of course, gorgeous finish on the doors. Everything from top to bottom is covered in leather. You have some beautiful stitching here right next to the armrest, and then stunning woodwork here for the inlays. This inlay is like a open pore wood, and it gives it a very, very classy look. I can't say that it's something that I would option out myself. I would probably do it in like a carbon fiber finish. But nevertheless, for somebody that is a little bit more mature in age, this is a gorgeous finish. Of course, you got some aluminum finishing over here that goes into the door handle. You got the Bowers & Wilkins optional sound system over here. And then you got your buttons for your window controls and your trunk release alongside with your side view mirrors. Over here, that is where the door handle sits. You could put small items in there. And then the other thing also is you could put small items here at the bottom door pocket as well. Not huge. The other thing is that the door pocket is not very high. So in terms of like putting something that, let's say if you want to put a bottle, which can fit in there, you can even put that, say, 2 500 ml bottles in there. They have the potential of rolling off. You have a little bit of a ledge to allow it to not roll off, but still, if you go into like very spirited driving, it could actually end up falling off. Crazy, to be honest with you. It's even leather trimmed or leather wrapped inside the door pocket over here. That's only you see on like really, really crazy finishes, like for example, Rolls-Royce. Aston Martin's one of them. And this really is impressive, to be honest with you. Now the seat, as always, you get to see that Aston Martin does not fail to impress. You got gorgeous leather over here. I believe it's like a Napa leather. And then if you look closely into the actual design of the seat itself, you got some quilted leather over here, or quilted stitching alongside with some perforations. And I love the way that they put these sort of like little circles alongside with the piping. You guys get to see these circles over here. The seat itself is super comfortable. It's got enough bolstering both on the bottom and the top, but not enough to dig into your hips or into your ribs. And I think even like a heavier sided person would be able to sit in these with no issues whatsoever. And then at the same time, the other thing that I do love about the seats are the fact that you have the embroidery on the headrest for Aston Martin. And you also, like, they go as far as even doing the embroidery here in the rear seats as well. You can barely, put an adult over here, and they still go as far as putting embroidery on the rear seats as well for the headrest. So, I mean, ultimately, they did a phenomenal job as always. So as you guys can see here, everything's been changed here, including with the steering wheel, the gauge cluster, the infotainment screen, and even the middle console. Everything's been basically designed, and all the R&D has been in-house by Aston Martin, and I think they did a phenomenal job. I love how they integrated both physical buttons and screens. They decided to retain physical buttons to keep it sort of more tactile at the same time. Very nice feel on these rollers. You get to see like it's got a nice sort of weight to it. But you see the same rollers for both temperature, or both sides of the temperature. And this ends up being a volume knob now, because of course you can only fix the fan speed on one side. And then of course, instead of having fan speed on the other side, they basically had it as a volume roller over here. Of course, you have sort of like a nice little gauge, nice little gear lever over here. It's functional, but doesn't take up too much space at the same time. You can put it into manual mode with the manual button. And then of course, gorgeous little centerpiece over here that basically houses your engine start stop alongside with your different drive modes. So you guys can see when I'm twisting this, the drive modes will change. And the different drive modes that you see are basically wet, individual, GT, sport, and sport plus. So as I'm changing or going through all these drive modes, a lot of the different systems in the vehicle will change. You got stiffer suspension, a little bit of a different feel on the steering wheel. Of course, the exhaust will open up a little bit more in terms of the valve, so it's got a louder sort of sound. And ultimately, you can even adjust those individual things like the suspension and the exhaust directly from the buttons here in the middle. So you can change the exhaust. You can put it into, let's say, a GT mode, but also have the exhaust open up a little bit more. Or if you want to have it in GT mode, but with a stiffer suspension, you can switch it from here as well. The other thing is that you also have this new digital gauge cluster that gives it a lot of functionality. You can change a lot of the different views over here. You got the middle portion that gives you a lot of different information. And then if you want, you can change different parts of the, let's say, of the screen. So let's say you want to have a navigation screen here in the middle, you can do that as well. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the gauge cluster, but you guys can get an idea that now with the new gauge cluster, you have much more functionality and you have much more data that can be displayed over here as well. So very nicely done, and it's also very high resolution at the same time. Now with the steering wheel, similar to what we saw with the DB12 Coupe, you have a number of functions. Most of them are haptic. And I love what they did here. They basically emulated these rollers to basically sort of keep it a similar look and feel to the rollers that you get in the middle console over there. So these rollers will help you basically set your cruise control, and here it's your volume. And then you have sort of little touch pads over here that you can scroll around and actually select just by moving your finger on top of them as well. So you have different functionalities in terms of changing different functions, your cruise control, voice control, and then of course these paddle shifters for the gear shifting now is steering wheel mounted as opposed to column mounted the way there was before. But they're very, very nice nevertheless. It's a nice sort of I would say it feels like an aluminum feel in a gunmetal finish. So ultimately very, very nicely done. And then finally you get these vents for the AC system. I'm very happy that Aston Martin decided to do this. Not like many other vehicles or brands where you control some of the venting through, like, let's say the infotainment screen. They kept it tactile. So you can actually close a vent by twisting it. You can move it up or down or move it side to side, all with the same sort of knob. And then if you want to open it back up, twist it again, and there you go. Very, very nicely done, very nicely integrated. I love the way that they actually ended up changing also the look of the vents. And then going from the side over here, if we go a little bit here towards the middle, then you get a little bit more convenience as well. You got this cover over here that's in gloss black, but if you open it up, it shows basically two cup holders that you can also switch in terms of size. So you want to make it bigger, you just push it down and you're good to go. And then you can close it up. And then of course you have your middle compartment over here that has a 12-volt outlet, like a cigarette style 12-volt outlet. And you got two USB-C plugs as well for any type of connectivity that you want. The only thing is I noticed that it's not too deep, so you don't have too much space. It does have a little bit of surface area, but in terms of depth, not much that you can put in terms of something that is much bigger, let's just say. I do love the actual cover. It's all quilted sort of stitching. Very, very, very well done as well. And then, of course, like I mentioned in my video that I did for the DB12 Coupe, something that is major in my opinion in terms of adding more convenience, they added now a glove box. So if you go into the passenger side, let's say if you want to, if I can show you over here, come take a look. The glove box over here now, before we didn't have one. Now we have a glove box. So I'm very, very happy to say that we have added convenience now also on the DB12 Volante. And then one last thing, which I forgot to mention, guys. As you guys can see, the middle sort of console over here is kind of like a bridge, and it leaves sort of like an open space over here. This open space is not just for anything. That open space over here actually houses your wireless charger. So you can put your cell phone over here and have it wirelessly charge over here. And guess what? It's big enough to even hold something as big as, let's say, a Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. So like the big 6.7, 6.8 inch screen sized phones, it'll fit there with no problems whatsoever. All right, guys, so let's go outside and have a look under the hood, which is basically the heart of this Aston Martin DB12 Volante. Under this hood, we got this amazing power plant over here, which is a AMG sourced 4-liter twin turbo V8. This amazing powerhouse pushes out 671 horsepower. And I mean, it sounds incredible. Of course, this is different than what the predecessor had, which is the DB11 Volante. The Volante from DB11 basically had a V12. Now it's downsized a little bit to the twin turbo V8. But guess what, guys? Now, even with the twin turbo V8, we're pushing basically the same amount of horsepower with a smaller sort of footprint at the same time. I'll show you guys the numbers on the screen in terms of the power output, the performance numbers, and even if some of you care, the EPA fuel efficiency numbers as well. The good thing is, the way that this twin turbo V8's been placed, it's been placed sort of like as a front midship mounted engine. So what that means is that the majority, or if not the entirety of the engine, basically sits behind the front axle. And what that does is basically it allows for a better balance of the vehicle. It gives it sort of like a, I have to verify, and I'll put it on the screen, guys. It gives it sort of like a 50-50 weight distribution. So in terms of dynamics, definitely helps quite a bit as well. You have this new sort of strut brace over here as well, which also helps in terms of rigidity, keeping the chassis very stiff when you're actually pushing this car in back roads as well. And then you guys can see here on the suspension coming out of the strut tower over here, we see this little wire, and that basically allows it for adjustable suspension settings. So when you're changing those settings for your drive modes, it also changes the feel of the suspension when you're driving the vehicle. So ultimately, I mean, I think they did a phenomenal job. I'm glad that they kept the AMG sourced V8 on this. And then a little, you know, I guess if you want to call it a little Easter egg, over here you guys can see that it's been hand built in Great Britain, and it shows final inspection by Kieran Coffee. So Kieran, thank you very much for putting this beautiful and inspecting this gorgeous twin turbo V8. So guys, driving the Aston Martin DB12 Volante. So I can't say that there's much difference between the coupe and the convertible version. As you guys know, I've already reviewed the coupe. If you don't know, or if you haven't seen that, make sure to check it out. I'm gonna put a link up in the screen for you guys to take a look at. It feels very similar in terms of you know, driving dynamics, in terms of brake feel, in terms of steering. The steering is very soft. Right now I have it in Sport Plus mode, and the feel of the steering wheel is very soft, but at the same time it is communicative. Brake feel is progressive. It doesn't have too much travel, which is good. So as soon as you press on the brake pedal, it starts giving you some of that brake feel right away. I do have it in manual mode right now, and I'm shifting with the paddle shifters. You guys can hear some of that engine note from the V8. So that's a really cool thing, because you get both luxury and sportiness both in one package. And I can tell you guys that this ZF 8-speed transmission does deliver, especially when it's in manual mode. The way that they calibrated it is very, very responsive. It's almost dual clutch transmission quick. As you guys can see that, look, I'm gonna shift it right now. It's almost immediate. Almost immediate. I would say it's very close to like a PDK, for example. Aside from that, suspension feel is also quite compliant, given the fact that I do have it right now on Sport Plus mode, and it's not jarring, to be honest. The interior sort of feel when you're driving is very sort of welcoming, luxurious. Everything here is covered in leather. You got this gorgeous sort of like, you know, open pore wood. And what I love about this is the fact that you have both beauty, comfort, technology now with a new infotainment system, and performance all at the same time. And let's not forget, you are in a convertible. So right now I do have the top up, but shortly I'll show you guys how it looks like and how it feels with the top down. I mean, I'm gonna repeat myself again. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you're probably driving one of the most gorgeous convertibles right now out on the market. We're gonna take the roof down right now, guys. this is what the DB12 Volante is all about. Roof down and open top action, baby. Let's see how this feels now with the roof down. So the beauty of driving the DB12 Volante with the roof down is just you get to feel all the senses and you get to hear that twin turbo V8 behind you. A little bit of bangs and pops. What better can you ask for? So guys, I hope you enjoyed this amazing vehicle as much as I did. I'm very happy I got a chance to take some time behind the wheel of this Aston Martin DB12 Volante. Aston Martin basically still makes some of the most beautiful vehicles on earth. And like I said at the beginning of my video, and I stand by it, this still remains one of the most gorgeous convertibles out there right now in any segment that we're talking about. As always, guys, I want to give a big thanks to Aston Martin of Orlando. I'm going to put their description on the screen, and also I'm going to put more information in the description below as well. You guys can take a look at their website in terms of what sort of inventory they have. You guys can take this beautiful DB12 home. Go take a look at them, give them a call, see what it's all about. Come here, come take a test drive here at Aston Martin of Orlando. But as always, guys, thank you very much for viewing, sharing, and commenting. Make sure to keep, stay in touch with all the videos in the library, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. I'll see you guys on the next one, guys. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.